On this episode of Travels with Bill, we're in Winnipeg, Manitoba at Mega Train. It's the huge train exhibit they have every year in this Canadian city. And this entire episode, we're going to spend our time looking at just one layout, but it's pretty amazing. So can you tell me your name?
Rupert James.
And the club you're here with?
I'm with the Echo Valley Railroad Guild from Regina, Saskatchewan.
Tell me about your layout today.
This particular layout consists of modules that are built to a FREMO standard, which is a standard that allows you to build a module and plug it into another module someone else has built, perhaps in another city or even another country. So you can have a 4-foot module that you've built and plug it into hundreds of feet that are built by other people. So in this instance, we've got 5 people here today in our group, and they've all built at least one module.
I see some of them are very, very detailed.
It's a hobby that is entirely dependent upon your budget, your time, size of your checkbook, and your skill level. And skill, like most other things in life, gets better the more you do it. Sometimes you have to take the plunge and do something and you're not really pleased with it, so next time you do it better.
I see your farmer has an issue over there with the infestation of dinosaurs.
Yeah, I know. One of the spouses of one of the ladies, or one of our people here, has a passion for running around and hiding dinosaurs all over the layout, and then she moves them periodically. A little bit of levity there.
Which one's the one that you made?
I made that one, and this one, and the 2 loops, and that small curved one. And I made this as a COVID project because the alternative to having that is you have to walk all the way around the other side, or you have to make a thing like that which you duck under. And the older you get, the harder that becomes. So this just lifts up and you can walk through, and then let it go back down and close it, so it saves the back.
How long did this town take you?
This particular 8-foot module was my very first one, and it took me a winter, off and on, not doing it every day, but yeah, you just work away at it. You start by you build the wood frame, and to be a FREMO module, the ends have to be 3/4 inch plywood, sides 1/2 inch plywood. Top can be made of anything you want, but it's got to be sturdy. And for double track, it has to be 26 inches wide, and your rails have to be centered and exactly 2 inches apart from that rail to that rail, and so on. And you have to have a 1-inch gap at the end. So if everybody builds it to that standard, you can plug them together. So being the first one I'd ever made probably took me longer because I had never done the wood part, so that all worked fine. I bought a biscuit joiner and was able to fasten it together quite well. And I just followed the standards that are set out by the FREMO organization, which I believe is centered in California, if I'm not mistaken. And it's well laid out. You have to use specific electrical connectors so that my module will connect to the next person's. And you have to follow a certain standard of making sure the various rails are wired to the right wires. So again, if you plug it into the next person's module, it'll work. So this one would have taken me longer than the next one down, which I actually built as a COVID project because I had more time on my hands. And that one probably only took me off and on 6 weeks, just because I didn't really have anything else to do. I couldn't go anywhere. So it's a good hobby because it encompasses the electrical, the modeling aspect. A lot of people really like doing the scenery, and they're not that interested in the trains. Some people really like the trains, and there's woodworking involved. So it's a hobby that also has a tremendous amount of information available via print magazines, online magazines. There's lots of blogs out there, and it's also a hobby that the people in the hobby are, by and large, very willing to share their knowledge and experience. So, or you can be a loner and you don't have to belong to a club or anything. You could just build something in your basement and enjoy it. So,
tell me about the fire. That looks complicated.
Well, actually, it's a plastic kit which I didn't modify in any way except for one thing. I was able to purchase a very small humidifier. It's intended to be used, I assume, at a desk. You put it in the glass of water, you plug it into a 5-volt USB port, and it produces the vapor. So to fit in the building, I had to cut it, make it a little shorter, and epoxy it together. So it's very safe because there actually is no heat in there. There's nothing combustible. It's just water, vapor, and a little cup of water. And it's plugged via a wire into the accessory bus that runs under this. And it's stepped down to 5 volts DC, just like a USB would be. So it always gets a lot of attention. People are interested in that always. And of course we have the fire trucks flashing. I think there's even an ambulance there. And the crowd standing around watching. And the golf course, it's the 18th hole of a golf course. I did that because I had never seen a golf course depicted on a model railroad ever before, and I thought, well, that might be an interesting thing. So yeah, it's quite fun. The Henry's machine shop, named after my late brother, and so you can kind of have fun with names and places and so on. And the module further down, the more recent one, if you take a look, you'll notice it's a tourist excursion railway. And the reason I built that is because when we come to shows like this, you would see some of our members running modern, very large diesels with container trains behind them. And others would run a steam locomotive from the 1940s. And it always looked a bit odd, running on the same track. So I thought, if we had a tourist excursion railway, it would be plausible to have them both running together. I made the mistake of forgetting to bring a steam locomotive. I left it at home. So. But and you can see, as part of that, there's a railway museum. If you look really closely inside the museum, there's actually a model railroad layout on the top floor of the museum. And then you can see the passengers on the platform, an engine house. And as you go around it, you'll notice that there are signs, like you have at a museum, explaining all the various pieces of equipment and how they work. So I just thought it would be a fun addition. I had never seen it before. But anyway, so you're only limited by your imagination.
Anything else I should ask you?
Well, you can't really think of anything else. Just for your information, you'll notice the people holding the controllers, they're not plugged in anywhere. So it's a radio that talks to these two devices on these little towers. So it sends the signal from your controller to the radio. The radio runs through a wire, and there's little computers running underneath here which interpret that radio signal through the wires into a signal that goes into the rail. The rail signal goes into the locomotive, and there's a little computer chip in there which takes its instructions from what you just told it to do. So you can change the speed, the direction, turn on a light, a bell, a horn, or many other things. And it can be done wirelessly. And it's very reliable.
Thank you much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Well, there's one more of the layouts at Mega Train. We've got lots more on the channel. Make sure you subscribe to Travels with Bill. You'll see everything from the Mega Train exhibit, but also so very much more from across Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and indeed Western Canada. We'll see you on the next episode.